here as part of the Phi Beta Mu Legacy Project. Today, we are excited to be joined by Dr. Kenneth Ozzello. Start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where you went to high school, your band director, where you went to college.
Sure, I grew up just outside of Pittsburgh. I just tell people Pittsburgh, but in a town called Jeannette, Pennsylvania. And my house that I grew up in backed up to the high school football stadium. And even from a small child, on Friday nights in the fall, I could hear the sounds of the game, roar of the crowd and the band, and it interested me very much so. And when I was old enough, someone would take me to the game. I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Absolutely wanted to be a football player. My mother refused to let me be a football player. I still don't forgive her for that, but the closest I could get to the football game was to be in the band. And I joined the band. There was a wonderful gentleman there named Carl Maschantonio. Good luck spelling that. This is a heavily Italian community. We shortened it to Mr. Mash, and it was a fantastic man, sort of a Pied Piper kind of fellow that was there for several decades, and got me very interested in the program. And when my mother said I couldn't be in the Super Bowl, I committed my career to music. I thought being a band director would be a great way to spend your life. So auditioned in several places, but the band director's daughter had just attended West Virginia University, which is actually very close to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is in the really southwestern corner of Pennsylvania, and it's less than 50 miles from the border of West Virginia. A lot of people don't realize that. And Morgantown is very close to the Pennsylvania border, so it's very close to get from Pittsburgh to Morgantown. And at that time, they didn't have crazy out-of-state fees. You could go there just as much, or pay as much as you could to go to Penn State. And they had a fantastic music program, really superior to any that were in the state of Pennsylvania. So I was fortunate to go to West Virginia to get my undergrad degree. Again, found just the kindest man as the band director there. His name was Don Wilcox. You may have heard Dave Satterfield at the keynote speech yesterday talk about Don. Michigan guy, great musician, but cares about people above everything else. So here I am. I have the same kind of guy in high school and in college, and I figured out that you could be a good human being and still be a good musician. And I said, well, because a lot of band directors at that time weren't very nice, that was sort of the standard practice. The meaner you were, the better your band was, and if you know me, that's not really my personality, so I was happy to see that you could do it in more than one way. So finished, I did 4 years there, 2 years as drum major. I actually did 2 years drum major in high school, so my 8 years of marching band, I did half as drum major and half marching. Finished my undergrad degree and actually came back to my hometown and became the band director. And of course, there are pros and cons to that. I live with my folks, so I could save all my money. I got a really cool car with a great stereo and everything. But, the same teachers are there. I remember the first graduation that we played, the mayor spoke, and at the end of it, I guess I looked so young, he said, now where will you be going off to college next year? Well, I'm actually the band director here. So stayed there for about 5 years, and my ultimate goal was to be involved in college bands somehow, so I knew I had to get a graduate degree, and went back to West Virginia. And there was an interesting story. When I was at the high school, my college band director called me and said, the University of Michigan Youth Wind Ensemble is coming through Pittsburgh, and they're looking for somewhere to perform. Would you consider hosting them? And I said, sure, that'd be great. And the day they were to arrive, the conductor got to the school before the group, and we were just standing outside. And he said, "Hi, my name's Jerry Junkin." I said, "Oh, nice to meet you, Jerry. And what do you do?" "Well, I go to the University of Michigan." I said, "What do you do there?" He goes, "I study conducting." I said, "Oh, that's what I want to do." And I said, "What do you eventually want to do?" "I want to be a college band director." And I said, "Well, that's what I want to do." And, about 25 years later, when we met at the Rose Bowl, and Jerry was the director of bands at the University of Texas, and I was at Alabama, that was kind of a interesting reconnection. But eventually went back to West Virginia. I got my graduate degree. Wanted to teach college, and I was very fortunate because Don Wilcox was very connected in the business. At that time, if you had some connection to the University of Michigan, it really put you in a different category to gain a college band job, because everything went through the University of Michigan. And he was able to call folks and get me interviews. And, I had very specifics about where I wanted to go. I wanted to go somewhere where it was warm, because I like warm weather. If I was going to do marching band, I wanted to go somewhere where football was a big deal, because if you're going to go through all that abuse, you want it to be worth it. And actually, the year that I finished the degree, I got 3 interviews. I interviewed at the University of Florida, the University of Tennessee, and the University of Alabama. Incredibly fortunate, but it was not that I was some child prodigy or anything. I had great connections and went to a good school, and ended up, of course, at Alabama. And I had a strange combination of skill sets. My degree was in wind conducting, but I wrote drill. There weren't but 6 people in the world at that time that did that. So at Alabama, they had 2 band directors, one that exclusively did the wind ensemble, another one that did exclusively the marching band. And here was this guy that could help either one of them. So it was a really good fit. Had no clue I would stay there for 30 years, but the quality of life in Tuscaloosa is great, and the opportunities just kept presenting themselves. So that's sort of the story in a nutshell.
What were some memorable experiences from your long career?
Well, I would say it's certainly with the marching band. I actually saw one national championship game at West Virginia my last year there. We played Notre Dame. But then at Alabama, let's say we won 5 and lost 3. So I've seen a whole bunch of those games. Those aren't always, as you know, those aren't always the greatest football games, but the last one certainly was with Georgia and Tua. There was a time where we weren't even going to bowl games. The team was so bad. So when we started winning, that was a pretty exciting time too. I remember the first bowl game we got to was the Independence Bowl. And you would have thought we were going to the national championship because we hadn't been anywhere in the longest time. A lot of great times with the band. I just figured out over the holiday that I've seen, this is a staggering number, but I've seen 400 Alabama football games. 400 Alabama football games. And there's some really good ones in there. And for some people, that would be drudgery, but for somebody that loves college football, my colleagues say, "Why are you still doing that?" I love college football. So, and with the wind ensemble, certainly playing at the big conventions and having so many great composers come through Tuscaloosa and great artists. People sort of kid and say legends are made at Alabama. I mean, you can do anything you want with your experience at the University of Alabama. I truly believe that. You could be on the Andy Griffith Show, or you could be an astronaut with your experience at the University of Alabama. So I think it's a good place.
Is there a particular performance that sticks in your mind, either one that you've conducted or one that you have been to that has just had a lasting impression on you?
I would say I remember performing with Joe Alessi, who's the principal trombone of the Chicago Symphony, having him stand 2 feet away and play with him. That was certainly one of them. Playing with Chris Martin, principal trumpet of the Chicago Symphony, and having David Maslanka there. We played his 9th Symphony, which is an hour and a half long. Really, a really profound piece. But years before he wrote his 9th Symphony, he said, I'm scared to write my 9th Symphony because every time a composer writes their 9th Symphony, they pass away. And I said, oh, don't worry about that. And lo and behold, that's his last symphony. But some great experiences with David. Actually became good friends with him. Brought him down here to AMEA. We did his clarinet concerto. I remember he didn't want to perform the piece because the ventilation system was too loud. So I walked in the back and like I was going to talk to the engineer, which I'm sure is in Dothan somewhere, running the air condition. I said, I think he's going to work on it. And then he felt better about it. But yeah, lots of cool people.
Are there any experiences from your career that you can look to that have made you a better teacher?
Yeah, I used to, my teacher at West Virginia, Don Wilcox, he used to always say, if you want to get better at something, like we used to play racquetball every day at noon, he said, play with somebody better. If you play with somebody you could beat, you're not going to get better. You may feel good about it, but you're not going to get better. So I honestly think just being in the presence of great musicians and great ensembles make you a better teacher. I remember when Ray Kramer came as endowed chair, just being around him made a significant difference. When you have people like that around, it's easy not to really focus on exactly what they're doing because of the aura of them. But if you really pay attention to what they're doing, it can make a significant difference in what you do. He made some suggestions about the way we seat the wind ensemble that we still do. And again, he is an incredibly nice man that is an incredible musician. And that combination appeals to me. I know people make fun of that, but I like people that can be nice to other human beings and still be successful. That doesn't mean you have to be that way. Obviously, our football coach is not that way. Although, if you get to know him, he is very nice. It's just that outward persona that you see.
What would you tell a first-year teacher, Ken Ozzello, that would make him a good first-year teacher?
Pay attention more in your classes because most of it is something that can be very helpful to you. And stare at the people you want to become. If there's somebody that's very successful, stare at them and figure out what they're doing and try to replicate it in your own situation. Steal from the best is what I would say. I was very fortunate to the next school over from where I taught was a school called East Allegheny High School. And the director there is John Thompson. And he took that band to Midwest. Then he went to Northwestern, got his graduate degree. Then he went to a sort of a famous school outside of Chicago called New Trier High School and took that band several times to Midwest, is now on the board of the Midwest. But 30 years ago, while everybody was walking around their band with these things called chord tuners, and they would stick it in front of the student and say, we talked about this the other day, you're sharp, you're flat. He wasn't doing it that way. He had a tone generator, and he would bring it out there, set it on the stage. He had a pitch for the clarinets, and they would match it. It wasn't about the meter. It was about listening and matching. And, if you could learn valuable lessons like that, just doing it the way everybody else is doing it is not always the best way to do it, obviously.
Are there any other things about your career or your life that you just want to share, or are there any other people that you would like to acknowledge?
Well, I think the people of the state of West Virginia, the people of West Virginia are actually a lot like the people of Alabama. And from the first time I came, they were very welcoming. I mean, you had to sort of prove to them that you knew what you were doing. But once they figured out that you weren't totally out of your mind, you knew what you were doing, they were very welcoming. And, by and large, everybody I've interacted with in my time here in Alabama have been great. I think the quality of life relative to teaching and living in Alabama has been really great for me and my wife and our several golden retrievers that we've had. Better for them than anybody else, actually.
Well, Dr. Ken Ozzello, thank you for being here today, and thank you for sharing your life and your career with us.
Absolutely. I hope we have a few more years.